Thanks, John. It's kind of intense to follow that love fest. I love you all too. Congratulations on 5 years. It's very emotional. Hi, I'm Claire Evans. Over here is Jana Bechtold. We're musicians and we're the founders of an app called 5 Every Day, which is a platform that we use to share 5 interesting things to do in Los Angeles every day. And yeah, John's right. The first time we ever talked about this idea was at Creative Mornings 2 years ago. We hadn't even built it yet, we just mocked it up, but we figured if we said it out loud, then we'd have to do it, which is kind of our philosophy in general, just jump off the cliff and figure it out. And honestly, I mean, the enthusiastic response from people at that Creative Mornings 2 years ago is part of the reason we actually went ahead and did it, so thank you. 5 Every Day is a time-based platform, so it's all very convenient thematically. It's designed to be ephemeral. There's 5 events every day: art, city, food, music, and a wild card. They never repeat. It's basically like a little mini magazine that we put out every day that just has no calendar, no archive, just 5 pieces of writing about 5 interesting things every single day. We do that because we want to encourage people to be spontaneous and to explore Los Angeles without deferring it to another day. So if you don't do it today, it's not ever going to happen again. So in the spirit of that temporal enterprise, we've chosen to do something a bit different today. We're not going to have 1 speaker, we're going to have 4 speakers, and they all come from different worlds. There's video makers and nonprofits and podcasters and all kinds of musicians and all kinds of interesting people. They will each speak for 5 minutes about time and what it means to their work. I think we've been trying to think of it as like an IRL 5 Every Day. So it's an experiment. It's never going to happen again, probably, and hopefully it'll make you love Los Angeles just that little bit more. So I don't want to break up the flow of things, so I'm going to introduce everybody up front. There'll be slides in between so you know everyone's names in case you forget. But first up, we have Kate Johnston and Sarah Williams, who are the founders of a transformative feminist space in Los Angeles called the Women's Center for Creative Work. Then we have Tom Carroll, who is the host of our favorite web series, Tom Explores Los Angeles, all about LA history. Then we have Zach Brooks, food writer and host of Food is the New Rock, an awesome podcast where musicians talk about food and chefs talk about music. Such a good idea. And then finally, Miguel De Pedro, an electronic musician, legendary, otherwise known as Kid 606. All of these people are great. They are our friends. They are the kind of people whose projects and events and happenings we tend to feature on 5 Every Day because they make us so enthusiastic about the vibrancy and wonderful, exciting city that we live in. So without further ado, it's time to talk about time. Please welcome Kate and Sarah.
Thank you so much, Claire, and thank you, Creative Mornings. We're really excited to be here. I'm Sarah Williams, and this is Kate Johnston, and we're from the Women's Center for Creative Work, or the WCCW. The WCCW is a nonprofit arts organization with our mission to cultivate LA's feminist creative communities and practices. We've been active since about November 2013, and just this last April moved into a space in Frogtown, which we run as a creative co-work space, a residency program. We do project incubation and seemingly a numerous number of events. We've hosted 230 events just in the past year that have been attended by over 9,000 people. But we're here today to talk about time.
Time. So we're feminists, and we're here to talk about feminism. I assume has been happening since the beginning of consciousness, but the feminism that is kind of like the most prevalent to our current consciousness, I argue, is the one at the beginning of the second wave of feminism in the early 1970s, the so-called bra burning time. When we started Women's Center for Creative Work, I think the word feminist or feminism was really kind of a weird word. I actually have like cleared rooms by telling people I was a feminist, or been told like, wait, I thought you were cool, you're a feminist. So weird. So, and I think this bra burning time was a time in which these activities of second wave feminism and separatism were kind of seen as impractically radical and marginalized. The pillow of time of about 45 years from today, back into the early 70s, creates kind of a comfortable space. And so that like now in 2015, a feminist can look back at this time and kind of use these historical models to like link themselves to the historical trajectory in kind of a safe, hip way, and look forward to the future of feminism without clearing a room. So we're really interested in these historical models from the early 1970s. When we started Women's Center for Creative Work, we looked very, very carefully at the model of the historic Women's Building of Los Angeles. Does anyone know this project? Yeah, like a couple. We didn't know it either. But in 1973, three women who were on faculty at Cal Arts, Arlene Raven, Sheila DeBretteville, and Judy Chicago, became discouraged with the pedagogy there because they were all on the arts faculty, and they found that their students who were making work about their bodies or about pregnancy were really being marginalized by the rest of the faculty and the Cal Arts community at large. So they pieced out and they started a radical feminist space called the Women's Building. They had a feminist studio workshop, and this picture here is of women approaching the building for the first brochure of the feminist studio workshop in 1973. The Women's Building also housed the offices of Chrysalis magazine. They had a printing press. They had Sisterhood bookstore. They had a cafe. They had a dance troupe and art galleries. They had a feminist travel agency called Woman Tours, which I'm super interested where those trips went. So we looked very, very closely at this model when we were starting the Women's Center for Creative Work.
And so here's our crew literally sort of knocking at the front door of the historic Women's Building, which is still, the building is still downtown on Spring Street, kind of right as you're about to go over into Lincoln Heights. And this was one of the early events we did called a Women's Dinner in the City, where we hosted literally kind of in the shadow of this building and the shadow of this history, an evening, a dinner to talk about sort of where contemporary feminism is today and how this intersects with creative practices, and kind of to think about how, like Kate was talking about, how these different kinds of practices can sit side by side and feed off each other and kind of flow.
So other feminist organizations in Los Angeles are doing the same thing that we did, where they're looking at these historical models and kind of incorporating them into their current practices. Here we have two historical pictures of mobile libraries. The one standing up is in Paris, and then the one with the bed. This is actually the Los Angeles, a branch of the Los Angeles Public Library in the middle of the last century. So it's just, I mean, you just look at these pictures and it's interesting to note that everybody involved is female. I don't know why mobile literature seems to be female in this case, but
this is a project that's happening today. This is Jen Whitty and Dawn Finley, who founded the Feminist Library on Wheels. And this actually grew out of the Women's Center Feminist Reading Group, where we were reading Bell Hooks' Feminism is for Everybody. And in there she talks, for everyone, and in there she talks about how we should be making feminist billboards, we should be producing our own feminist media, we should be missionary style knocking on people's doors and telling them the good word of feminism. And and so they started just over a year ago with just literally no books. It's entirely donation based, and now they have over 3,000 that they take out a few at a time in their mobile library to Ciclavia, to different events, parks, programs throughout the city. And we host the main branch of the library at our building, which is now, like I said, like 3,000 volumes. And another kind of interesting aspect of time at play in this project is, we have women who were around during the 1970s feminist movement donating their books and the works that were important to them, and those are sitting side by side with artists and women who are donating books from today, and sort of thinking about the passage of time and how these theories can also kind of be in conversation with each other.
So here's another historical picture. This is a woman named Alex Dobkin. This photo was taken in 1975 by her then girlfriend, Liza Cohen. This shirt was made for Labris Books, the first women's bookstore of New York City. So the future is female slogan. This image showed up last year on Her Story, which is an Instagram account of historic lesbian imagery.
And this is our friend and designer Rachel Burks, who's the owner and operator of Otherwild in Echo Park. And she saw this image on Herstory and was like, this is relevant. We should make this shirt again. We should get this back out in the world. And so she talked to everyone involved and with their permission remade this shirt, which is like wildly, wildly successful. And she donates 25% of all of the proceeds to Planned Parenthood, which is this nice linkage between a cause that was super important to the 70s feminist movement that is also still very important today.
Yeah, so this shirt became a sensation. Have you guys seen this Future as Female shirt around? The shirt is like running for president right now, which is amazing. It's amazing. So this shirt was featured on New York Times Style Edition on November 18th. And what is interesting to note is this historical picture of Alex Dobkin was featured in the article next to St. Vincent. This is pertinent because this is this idea that this link to this historical trajectory of feminism is what created the sensation around this shirt. You know, the fact that this message of feminism has like traveled over these 45 years from the 70s. This is what gives it this gravitas that it has and also this urgency for today.
And here's our amazing WCCW interns. Lana, who's in here, is here somewhere. Hi, Lana. So this is them at our fall fundraiser wearing their Future as Female shirts. And this is, again, us looking closely, along with Otherwild, along with Flo, sort of back at feminist history and then, in a way, able to look forward at our future as feminists.
Yeah, we're just echoing these historical trajectories and standing in solidarity with the past to look at the future. This is the end of our women's dinner in the city where we saw us knocking at the door. Then we all ate in the shadow of the most beautiful city in the world, downtown Los Angeles. Feminism is doing really well here in LA in 2015 because of its rich history. Thank you.
Good morning. How is everybody? Get my little clicker. Make sure I can click it correctly. So my name is Tom. Very simple. First of all, I want to say thank you to Claire and Jonna for asking me to speak this morning. For those of you that have used Five Every Day before, you know that city a lot of times is kind of a stand-in for history. And history is something that is very near and dear to me. I host a web series about Los Angeles called Tom Explores Los Angeles. Took me a long while to come up with that name. And in it, I attempt to understand Los Angeles through its forgotten people, its forgotten places. We've done 24 episodes. We've done one on the Sunken City in San Pedro. Anybody been there? Sunken City? There we go. A few adventurous people. Wonderful. Abandoned Mall in Hawthorne, small microsites, because we believe that if we drill down on these little spots of Los Angeles, that through lines start to connect, and those through lines can sort of illuminate Los Angeles as a whole. 469 square miles is a huge goddamn city. So any sort of foothold we can get to better understand it, we think is a positive thing. And in case anyone's still asleep, here's a terrible picture of me in 3rd grade. Bangs with a buzz cut. But I am not a historian. I went to school for art. But a couple things. I'm enthusiastic about history, which I'm sure many of you are as well. And also, I am the great-great-grandson of this guy, Thomas H. Carroll, his lovely wife, Lenora. And here's Thomas H. Carroll listed in the 1894 Los Angeles City Directory. Here, 907 East 3rd Street, which is literally half a mile that way. If who's been to Berskirche before? Yeah, so like 2 buildings down. 2 buildings down from there in the Arts District. So 111 years ago, he moved here. So this makes me a 5th-generation Southern Californian, which is something that you don't have to. No. Come on. That's it's very sweet, but it's something that my friends are sick and tired of me talking about. It's obviously a source of pride for me, but it's something I had no control over. So, I mean, is it really something to brag about, something you have no control over? I don't know. But as a historian, I think like it somehow adds gravitas to what I'm talking about, which is total bullshit. But it's something that I still think about. But it's interesting because Angelinos, a lot of times, we're not really receptive to outsiders. A lot of people move here, and we can be kind of dicks sometimes, unfortunately. So I'm talking to this guy a couple months ago, literally at the Giant Robot Biennale, which some of you will see after this. Talking to him what I do, blah, 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 web series, LA, history. And he's kind of giving me this side eye. He's not too sure about me. And then I say I'm born in Whittier, which is about 25 minutes southeast of us. And he literally says, oh, okay, I was worried you weren't from here. As if, and he sort of verbalized this idea that people who aren't from Los Angeles can't talk about Los Angeles, or at least like in some educated way, which is not only unfair, but it begs the question: why does something you have no control over, where you're born, dictate the authenticity of your narrative? I mean, it's really not fair. I mean, and also, this makes no sense, because we need outsiders to bring their enthusiasm. Outsiders bring enthusiasm, and they bring a fresh perspective. And I think that that's something that's really crucial to any sort of city if it's going to move forward in the future. That without this sort of fresh perspective, we can't sort of move away from this jaded feeling of like, yeah, I know this city, Echo Park is sort of Filipino town, don't go to the west side, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. But, so I mean, if you're confronted with this attitude from people that you want to talk about history, but they're kind of like blowing you off, just remember that that's their own problem, and that's something that the issues they have to deal with. So yeah, don't let people tell you your voice is not authentic. Is what it really comes down to. I'm kind of blowing the mic out. And that's if I can leave you with one thing. It doesn't matter where you're from. The important thing is that in whatever city you're in, you're engaged, you're paying attention, and be concerned about your history, be concerned about what's going on around you, and just try and keep a good attitude. And remember that everybody's just trying to get along and trying to better understand their surroundings. So with that, I'll leave you with this image. So thank you.
Awesome. Mr. Los Angeles. How do I follow that? Terrible. My name's Zach Brooks. I'm a food writer, founder of Midtown Lunch. Oh, I need to click. I'm getting the... Oh, it's not as exciting. Sorry. I'm Zach Brooks. I'm a food writer. I founded a website called Midtown Lunch, which is founded in New York. And then when I moved here, I started a branch here. I also host the Food is the New Rock podcast. Every week we talk to a musician just about food, or a chef just about music. Yacht has been on before, great episode, and we have a new episode coming out in the next few weeks that we recorded like a week or two ago. So I'm actually going to do something a little different today. I'm going to read a little story that originally appeared on the website Lucky Peach, and then we recorded the whole journey for an audio podcast that you can get at howl.fm. This is a kind of a condensed version, but if you're interested in hearing the full thing, you can hear that on Howl. So 20 years ago, I ate a gigantic egg roll in the parking lot outside of a Grateful Dead concert that was one of the greatest things I've ever eaten in my entire life. I mean, it was long before I was obnoxiously taking photos of all the food I eat, long before Instagram, cell phone, so I don't have like a photo of the egg roll or the parking lot or anything, just that longing I feel every time somebody mentions the Grateful Dead. And I'm not a Deadhead, by the way, I should say that. I just, it was high school, I went to the shows and found the egg rolls, and now the egg rolls is like all I can think of. And a lot of people call them fatty egg rolls, and as fatty implies, it was basically just like a gigantic egg roll. Not really like a burrito, because it was more wide than it is long. I think I remember a guy sitting in front of a van. He had like an oil-filled wok. I can't really say for sure. What I do definitely remember is there were mini packets of duck sauce, and the egg roll was wrapped into paper towel. And I remember, taking a bite and squeezing the duck sauce in, and taking another bite, squeeze the duck sauce in. Grateful Dead did, I think, 3 shows, so I went back 2 more nights, ate 2 more egg rolls. I don't even remember the music. Like, I remember nothing about the concert or anything. Music was secondary. It was all about the egg rolls. And then 6 months later, I went to college in Boston. The Grateful Dead did 3 more shows in Boston. I went to the Boston Garden, ate 3 more egg rolls, the paper towel, the duck sauce. I remember it all. I don't remember the guy selling them. Like, was it the same guy? Like, I don't remember. I just know that, as a Jew born to parents from New York, I love this egg roll. Like, it was almost like my birthright. So I should probably also mention I wasn't stoned for any of these shows, or like I really just loved the egg roll. And then Jerry Garcia died, and that was it. Like, no more Grateful Dead shows, no more parking lots, no more fatty egg rolls. But I've been thinking about these egg rolls. And then this year in January, they announced, the living members of the Dead announced that they would be reuniting for 3 more shows to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the band in Chicago. And I was like, I've got to go. Like, I got to go walk the parking lot and find these egg rolls. And Chicago's like a really far journey, like just for an egg roll from Los Angeles. But, how could I not? I just wanted to like eat 1 more of those egg rolls, squeeze the duck sauce, take a bite, have that moment where I get transported back to that parking lot of my childhood. And when I told this story to a friend of mine, she was like, "Oh, it's like your Proust's Madeline." And I was like, "I don't know what that is." But she explained it to me, and I was like, "Oh, right, like what happened to the critic in Ratatouille at the end when he ate the ratatouille." That's and I was like, "Yes, that's it. I want my Proust's Madeline." So luckily, I didn't have to end up going to Chicago. A few months later, the band announced they'd be doing a couple shows in Northern California, and it was settled. I would drive 6 hours up to Santa Clara to walk the parking lot, and in hopes of finding my egg roll. So fast forward to the day of the show. I wake up early, get in my car, drive up to Santa Clara. I have no idea what I'm going to find. You have to imagine like Santa Clara, like Levi's Stadium, which is where the shows were happening. It's a giant stadium, ton of parking lots. And the parking lots opened at 2. The show started at 6, so I had like 4 hours to find these egg rolls. It was almost as if the organizers of the concerts like didn't even consider parking lot egg roll searches in their planning for the concert. So I got to the lots like maybe 15 minutes after they opened. So I was one of the first cars in, and it was kind of amazing. Like, there was this city starting to coalesce in the parking lot. There were tailgaters and people wandering around. You had your like weekend warriors, and then some surprisingly, young-looking hippies who seemed as if they could have been plucked out of the hate in 1972, or at the very least, University of Vermont around '94. But the big action was this. There was this one strip with people who seemed like pros that were like feverishly setting up booths and stuff. And I was walking through just sort of quickly scanning, everybody's booth for something, like a deep fryer, a wok, like anything that could fry gigantic egg rolls. So I got super excited. I saw somebody chopping vegetables, and I was like, oh, but it was for a stir fry. And I was like, I like never hated stir fry more in my life. But there were no egg rolls. I talked to a bunch of people and recorded it for the audio version of the story. And everybody remembered the egg rolls. My favorite was this dude named Mike from Maryland who went to 200 Dead shows. And I asked him, I was like, have you ever eaten food in the parking lot of a show? And he was like, oh, man, I ate so much food. You know what the best thing was? These fatty egg rolls. Have you ever had these fatty egg rolls? And I was like, have I had? Yes, Mike, I've had the fatty egg rolls. I talked to so many people. It was so amazing walking through the parking lot, seeing all these people, hearing all the sounds. At one point, I could have swore I heard someone like yelling egg rolls. And if you ever went to Grateful Dead shows, you would walk through and people would walk by you like whispering things, whatever it was they were selling, drugs, T-shirts, food, everything. So there were all these sounds, and I could swear I heard someone say egg rolls. And I went up to the guy and I was like, dude, did you just say egg rolls? And he was like, no, I said edibles. And I'm like, I heard what I wanted to hear. So I didn't find the egg rolls, and I was pretty bummed. I know, saddest story ever. It gets worse, actually. I found out that the egg rolls are actually still around, and the guy who makes them, who invented them, was at the Grateful Dead shows in Chicago, not the Santa Clara ones. And they had like an official parking lot scene where they invited certain vendors, like the egg roll vendor, like this official, they call it a shakedown street, that was sanctioned by the venue in Chicago. And at first I thought I had made this huge mistake. Like, why didn't I just like bite the bullet, go all the way to Chicago? Santa Clara was closer to is close to the birthplace of the band, but Chicago were the actual shows. And I figured like if I had just sucked it up, I could have eaten one of these egg rolls and had like my ratatouille moment. But the more I thought about it, I realized like I had gotten my ratatouille moment. Like walking through the parking lots took me back to that time in my childhood in a way that like I feel like maybe the officially sanctioned, fully legal shakedown street in Chicago never would have. Like Jerry's gone, the Boston Garden's gone, the places where I saw these shows and ate my egg rolls are all gone. And maybe I didn't get the egg roll in Santa Clara, but being back there, talking to all the people who remember the egg rolls, made me feel this happiness of shared experience. In '94, I was a teenager who sort of jumped on the bandwagon at the last possible moment. But now I'm like the old guy who was actually there. Like I saw Jerry play. I ate one of the egg rolls, like back when you could get them for like 2 for $5. And I thought, like, why ruin that perfect memory by actually tracking down the egg roll and getting to eat it? And it probably is not. It's not going to taste the same. It's not going to, be as good as I remember. Who cares if I didn't find it? In all these years, I thought it was just the egg rolls that I remembered and that I really wanted, but it turns out it was like the whole thing. The parking lot, the deadheads, the vendors, the sounds, the smiles, and even the music. I still want to eat one of the egg rolls, though. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Miguel de Pedro. I make music as Kid 606, representing the audio creative side of this conference. Oh, here we go. That's me. My presentation is on something I think that is very controversial amongst the creatives, the self-employeds, the people that are trying to be the most productive, but also trying not to burn out and not trying to always get the most out of the least, but not trying to just completely run their schedules by always working. So, there are lots of theories that naps really just take away from the workday. I'm Spanish. I grew up in Spain, where it's like, without the siesta, the day doesn't even start. The day can't function unless you just stop it. Oh, nobody's hearing me. Okay. I'm from Spain, where the day doesn't even start until the siesta ends. And I think that with the internet and everyone's personal viewpoints about how their chronorhythms and metarhythms and their 4-hour work weeks and their intermittent fasting and their coffee enemas, there's no more. It used to be like you either napped or you didn't, and now it's like you either are part of a cult that tells you when to nap or a cult that tells you not to nap. And there's a lot of promises, and it's really hard to find out what works for you. I know because I think one of my secret weapons of being secret weapons or techniques that I've used to be a musician for 17 until 36 was naps. It was basically like a survival technique. When you travel a lot, you can't always be on. You basically want to like conserve your energy until you have to just like blow it up, and then you're back to being in a train or a plane or in an airport. So I got to wondering about the importance of naps, and I had a funny conversation with my girlfriend. So I'm a minimalist. My house is like, I've got a body pillow, and that's like the extent of my extravagance. But after spending the night at Piper's house, you wake up and it's like, it's kind of, you need an instruction manual to put that back together. And I sometimes don't think there's an instruction manual, and I don't want to ask her how to do it, but it always gets done. It's not expected for me to do it, But the fact is, that's a lot of time. And after 9 months of dating and only one 48-hour breakup, 3-day breakup, basically. If you're dating for 9 months and you break up for 3 days, does that take 3 days off the dating, or does that mean you stop dating and start it again? It's basically 2 relationships, yeah. Because the only way you can get back together is if you claim that you were born again, which I did. So then I remembered this classic movie. I'm not sure if you've heard of this. Basically, it's a story of that guy. Anybody know who that guy is? That's like insurance risk analysis. Anyway, his wife leaves him for this guy, Claude, and this happens. Basically, the freewheeling hippie he meets, Jennifer Aniston, explains to him, though, that putting together and taking apart all those throw pillars every day for the rest of their life will cost him, like, 2 days a year of his life. So if he lives till 80, basically getting the calculations, and he's like, what the fuck? All I've been doing is he's throwing on and off these decorative pillows, and this is like, so she convinced him to rip them all up. I wasn't able to convince Piper to do that, but it showed to me why people do certain things. And I just thought she was insane, but then she said it. She said, do you know why I do that? I do that because I want to create my bed as unappealing as a thing to nap in. You know what I mean? You're basically like putting like a fluffy barbed wire coating over your bed. And it's brilliant because I never thought about it. And anything I don't think about that's good is brilliant. But it basically is a like, do not nap here once you're made up. It's like so tight and it's so covered up. So I did not adopt her fashion. Basically, this is my idea of how you set your bed when you're out of it. Make sure there's a cat in it. A body pillow is a must. And it's just basically open. It's free. So I've had the thing where I was a musician and I toured a lot, and then once you realize you can't tour a lot, so you should probably try not to tour a lot, and then you get into like, how are my biorhythms? What should I do? I think it's just been like that whole teenager thing where you grow up and you be like, wow, I can't just stay up all night and think everything will work out the next day. So then I got into some book learning. I read all the infographics. Feel free to dig deep into these. The main point is that you really don't know what you're doing. And the other main point is that this probably contradicts that. And this probably contradicts that. And that probably contradicts this. But if you stick to one of them, you will find out that you will improve your life. Yeah, I nap periodically, a couple times a day. When I first heard the term Creative Mornings, I'm not trying to be funny, my first thought is Creative Mornings. Oh, is that a creative way to like get out of having to stay in bed? Is that like a creative way to stay in bed? You know, like it just seems like an oxymoron because like most creative people I know like don't do mornings. Unless they're the really productive ones, and then, so going deep, this guy. Elon Musk, 6 hours a night. He's saving the world with way less sleep than anyone should imagine. He may be a reptilian. He may have things we don't know about. He's probably living on coconut oil enemas and, grass-fed limas and lemurs. He seems healthy by anyone's standards. So I Googled Elon Musk nap. Nothing. I think you could Google any human being nap and something would come up about them napping. I looked far enough. The only thing that came up about people talking about how people might end up falling asleep and napping in his computer-controlled cars. So obviously, he's just does not care about napping. But if he did, this is what he would be. This is how he would nap. So sign up for one of those. Okay. So after I got into the kind of researching, finding way too much stuff for a 5-minute conversation about how this technology versus analog way of rebalancing and refueling and centering ourselves happen, I realized that meditation has been all the rage these days. Some might say, I don't know what to do. I want to meditate, but I want to take a nap. Which one? Seriously. The one episode of Scientific American, Psychology Today, TED Talk, whatever, says, if you have 20 minutes in the day, go namaste. The other thing says, if you have 20 minutes a day, nap. And then the other article says, if you've got 20 minutes a day, do yoga. And then another article says, if you have an hour in the day, do meditation for 20 minutes, yoga for 20 minutes, and nap for 20 minutes. And another one says, if you've got 24 hours a day, you should move to a yoga living community where you don't have to make your choices anymore because they have set. You nap at 3 p.m., you do yoga at 5 p.m., you meditate 6 to 8 p.m. Anyways, I assume everyone here is living in a non-communal situation. Raise your hands if you came down from Nevada City. You did. Of course, you're from there, but you're not there right now. So, it's just about living in the present moment. It's not where you're from; it's where you are. And where we are is here. So, I believe in meditation. I believe in the power of meditation. I don't believe in the priority of meditation. Until I met this. I don't know if you got it. When I practice 6 times a week and eat clean food, I feel so much better. So basically, someone that could feel better by pretty much any way possible with all the resources in the world, meditation is her thing. Science. Scientifically proven. All she needs to do is meditate. Except yeah, that's what I thought too. So many people are paying for transcendental meditation. It's like there's really cheap transcendental napping available to you. We can fight about the different ways to do the same thing, but certain things are free, and certain things cost a lot of money, which makes you less creative, because the worst thing to do when you're trying to create is be stressed about how much money what you're doing is going to make and how much money you're losing by trying to do this thing. And I think that we get so involved in when we invest in something, it's always, how's that going to fix my thing I want to do most? It's like, how is that going to take me further with my ultimate gains? But when the tools that you're using become things that actually inhibit your ability to move forward as a creative person, and especially as a musician, where you really should be able to make music without having a whole support team of yoga teachers and meditation trainers and life coaches and tarot readers. It gets a little scary because most of the ones I know do. So anyways, it's not that it's bad science. I love yoga, but it is the fanciest form of stretching ever created. And I think you should be good at anything. If you're good at, any weird thing, you're good at it, that's amazing. But I think as far as putting your energy resources into things. Yoga might not give you the full amount of return as just spending more time working on the thing you really want to be benefited by doing yoga. So yeah, and then I like this idea. Why can't we yoga while we nap? It's the same concept, you know? Um, so yes, they paid for my parking here, but naps are free. And I think anything that's free is worth trying. Unless you got to buy one of these. It's like LA's really famous for having the whole pay to play thing, you know? Like, oh, we'll let the band play if you pay for the whole studio or the concert hall. And this is like a weird pay to nap situation. We've created a society where you basically have to buy something to nap instead of just being able to nap. So, but if you're giving someone a holiday gift, I think this makes perfect sense. Some people have misunderstandings about what a nap is. It's not that. You cannot take a day-long nap. That is narcolepsy or being really hungover. Anyways, we need to focus on what the nap is and what kind of naps there are. So, there's the procrastinate. This is one that got really popular because it somehow got considered a way to recharge your mojo by getting as much sleep as possible right before you have to actually do the most important thing. The jury's still out on that. It is also called the snap. Pretty soon, I'll just think it'll be shortened to PAP because everything gets shortened by the young people these days. This is a bad idea. This is not something that we should try to do. Do not do this at home. We don't always land on our feet. Salvador Dali. Brilliant life hack or just being a hack at napping? In case you don't want to read that, basically, he claims lots of his brilliant insights were made by getting himself to the point of falling asleep, this like lucid state, but he would be leaning on a spoon, and he would get it to where as soon as he fall asleep and it hits that lucid state, the spoon would fall and he would wake up. His head would never hit the table. So every single time, but what happens is you've already entered the lucid state and you can pull it back out without having to be basically drugged for like 90 minutes. And then possibly waking up not knowing half of what you experienced in these states. And I'm all for lucid dreaming and I'm all for that kind of stuff, but I think this idea to kind of optimize it into a formula instead of just kind of seeing what happens to your normal dream cycles is a little Tim Ferriss-y. And I think it's funny when someone has this thing, especially someone from like 60 years ago, has this thing that people are now saying, this is the way, this is like the wisdom passed on by Salvador Dali. But I would like everyone here to try it and report back to me on how well it worked, and I'll tell you about how well it worked for me. Definitely use a big spoon. Don't use like a teaspoon. So other things about napping, especially if you're using it as an escape from work and as a way to justify it for why you aren't working, you shouldn't nap alone. You don't have to. This is called enabling. And it's good because anytime you see these cute, cuddly pictures of humans or any animal, one of them has some shit to do. The other one just can't say no. And you can understand why. There are bad napping partners. Come on, you've napped with someone who just kind of starts. It's like it's not even snoring. It's just like kind of over energetic, hungover napping partner. Not cool. Okay, yeah, be very wary of people napping on you. It feels great until you wake up before they do. And the feeling of having to push someone off of you who's just napping so peacefully when you just want to get up and go to the bathroom it's hard. It's very hard. But no, cats do not cause crib death. Oh, another advertisement. I suggest the 4:30 viewing. In conclusion, just take a nap.